I appreciate the comments from my colleague from Rhode Island, who is the author of the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. That is the underlying bill that we were trying to amend. And I would just point out that despite what the Honorable Chairman of the Budget Committee said, the fact is that the emergency supplemental funding amendment that we introduced is very specific about where the funding goes. It goes to programs that are addressed in CARA, expanded and improved, the substance abuse prevention and treatment block grants that go to the states to be distributed, funding to law enforcement through the burn, JAG, and COPS grants that are very specific in how they can be used to fight heroin and opioid abuse. And like my colleague, I'm disappointed, not surprised, but disappointed. I very much appreciate those people who voted for this amendment, who were willing, particularly some of my colleagues from the other side of the aisle, who were willing to step forward and say, if we are going to address this problem, we have got to provide the resources that communities, that states need to fight this addiction. And the question that I have for those people who didn't vote to support this amendment is, how many more people have to die before we're willing to provide the resources that are needed to fight this epidemic? 47,000 people in 2014. In New Hampshire, we're losing more than a person a day. In 2015, we lost over 400 people to overdose deaths from opioid and heroin. 3 times as many people as we lost in traffic accidents. So how many communities will continue to be ravaged because we're not willing to commit the resources to tackle this pandemic? And what do we tell the families of those people who have overdosed? What do we tell the parents of young people like Courtney Griffin, whose father came and testified at a hearing Senator Ayotte and I had last fall in New Hampshire? And he talked about the difficulties of getting Courtney treatment before she overdosed and died. You know, I met a man up at a treatment center in Lebanon, New Hampshire, a man in recovery who had been in and out of prison. And I thought he put it really well. He said, you know, it costs about $35,000 a year to keep somebody in prison. Wouldn't it make more sense to put dollars into treatment? Because it's a whole lot less expensive to provide the funding to treat people who are using opioids and heroin, who are substance abusers, than to put them in jail. So, Mr. President, to all of my colleagues, I am disappointed, but I am not defeated. And the fact is, this is coming back. It will come back in the appropriations process, and it will come back at every opportunity, because I am not going to quit on those families in New Hampshire who need help. I am not going to quit on the treatment professionals who are trying to provide treatment for the people who are in need. I'm not going to quit on the law enforcement, the police officers and the sheriffs and all of the people in law enforcement in New Hampshire who are trying to put pushers behind bars and trying to get people off the streets and into treatment. And I hope at some point the rest of the members of this body are willing to take up this cause and provide the resources that people need, because I'll tell you, it's certainly worth it to address the 47,000 people who we lost. We were willing to put $5.4 billion into fighting Ebola, and we lost 1 person in America. We were willing to put $2 billion into fighting swine flu, and we lost about 12,000 people in the swine flu epidemic. We have not been willing to put funding in to address the thousands, tens of thousands of people that we're losing each year in this country. And so we are going to keep at it. We are going to keep fighting until we get the resources that families and communities need to fight this scourge.